So when we are feeling emotional triggers, usually what happens is we feel low, we feel disturbed because it's pretty disruptive. In that moment, what we tend to do is, because we are not used to these emotions or we are feeling at dis-ease, we try to gain security and safety immediately because we believe that where I am, this discomfort, this unfamiliarity is not giving me safety and security. And when we start to chase after security and safety, what happens is we fall back to our old patterns of merely surviving. And the reason why we are experiencing emotional triggers is because we want to purge out our ego so we no longer live in survival, but we live in love, joy, harmony, and abundance. And in order for you to get to that place, you need to shift your pattern, meaning you need to choose differently. And to choose differently, what you need to do in that moment is to pause rather than react and choose what you used to choose before, meaning doing something to feel safe and secure immediately. Because discomfort doesn't mean insecurity or unsafety, but that's what we learn. So we need to sit with discomfort, knowing that it is happening for our own good. And everything is happening with divine purpose and timing. So there's the trust. And when we trust, even though we are feeling this discomfort, we know that this is where I need to be right now. And that is okay. And with that comes the feeling of safety and security. So that's the place that you want to get into. And so once you get into that place, you're now going to review. And when you review your emotions, you have to allow yourself to feel everything. The reason why it is so important is because feeling, you see, is just a mechanism. And emotions, energy in motion, their energy flow. Just like water in the ocean, it never stops. But when it stops, that's when we feel stuck inside. It creates stagnancy and slows the flow. And that's why we start to feel bored or sad or depressed, and we feel low and heavy, because the emotions, by nature, they need to flow in order for us to stay aligned. But something is blocking the way of this flow is your resistance. We call this resistance. Because we are not trying to feel, or we are not allowing ourselves to feel, meaning you have to just be and let it flow by. But what we do when we are living in survival and fear is that we get scared of these certain emotions, and immediately we block by wanting to control this flow. So basically what we are doing in that moment is we are trying to stop the waves from coming, meaning we are basically trying to stop the waves of the ocean, which is not possible. So that's why it is feeling so heavy and hard and difficult. And now it's going to cause you suffering and pain, because you're going to get overwhelmed as time goes by, you see, because it's not going to stop coming. And so you need to allow yourself to feel. And to feel, you need to be with yourself. And to be with yourself, you need to have this quiet alone time, meaning you need to get away from all distractions. The phones, the TVs, the other people, other situations. So that's why we need to create this place of solitude. So you can meet basically your shadow aspect, this ego. And so ego is not the enemy once again, but it's just a shadowy aspect of our light that we are. that we've been operating on because we had been programmed to believe and identify in a lot of conditions. And so we created this shadow aspect, the darkness so-called, and we are separated into two, our light and the darkness. And this darkness, the ego aspect, we sometimes need this ego aspect, but when this is over operating, what happens is this takes over and we are being dominant by the ego on a day-to-day basis. And so instead of this controlling us, now we are going to see these two together, your light self and your shadow self. And now you need to integrate these two separations, duality, as one. It's called unity, alignment, oneness, going into your center, being in balance, all these languages. What they mean is simply you are becoming one, you're integrating these separate aspects. You're not trying to remove this, get rid of this, because this is part of yourself that just created a shadow. You see? And so now you're shedding light onto this shadow aspect, and now this shadow aspect is absorbed by this light and it becomes the light. And this is the process. And the purpose of the emotional trigger is that we need to see this, meaning recognize the shadow aspect. And in order for us to recognize it, that's been dormant or stuck inside, is through a trigger. You see, like poking. And then you go, ouch, ouch, right? Then what do? You pay attention to that wound, right? Because when someone is poking it, it hurts. It's getting your attention. That's what it's doing. So basically this person or the situation that's poking this wound, your shadow aspect, this one is just playing this role. So basically, instead of seeing this person or the situation that you feel like caused you this triggering emotional reactions out of you, is not responsible for your emotions, because they're just a tool. And we all have these soul contracts, and they agreed to play this role before we came in, because we need to balance out our karma in order for us to move into the 5D consciousness. And not everyone is going to move to that place. It depends on how much work that you do on a soul level that's going to take you to that place. It's another beautiful place where everything comes from the heart center, not the ego mind anymore. We are moving out of that timeline. So in order for you to get into and align with the timeline, you need to recognize this event, triggering event, or this person who is making you feel angry, making you feel annoyed, making you feel sad, not as the cause of your harm, because that's going to only bring you down to being a victim of circumstance, meaning you're going to stay in the same place over and over, resenting, right? Blaming. And so now it is important to understand their role. And even though you have feelings and thoughts that you might see them as your enemy, knowing this can help you shift around your stories or how you perceive them. And that is the work that you need to put in. And as you put in this work, what's going to happen is you're going to realize at one point, meaning there's going to be an awakening or transformation by you now perceiving all the roles that everyone played in this scenario. And now what you need to do is, instead of getting scared by this person or feeling threatened by this situation, and so you start to live in fear, meaning make yourself small and powerless, trying to escape, or you act like you're stronger, act like you're in control. This pretending or masking, it's another face of escapism. It's not going to work. And so what you need to do is you need to face your shadow self, meaning that is just you. So that is why everyone that you meet is playing a role in your life. Someone is teaching you, someone is giving you support and love. And so they're just a mirror to yourself. So let's say you have this idea when you're working, oh, they're trying to dump their work on me, or they're going to try to take advantage of me, or they're not listening to me. Whatever the story comes up in your mind, that is your trauma. So they're not trying to do that. What happens is, because you hold that fear inside of you, like attracts like, you start to vibrate in that frequency and you attract people and situations that hold the same frequency, and they're going to come into your life, meaning in your reality. And however it plays out, they're going to trigger you at one point because you hold the same frequency. And what they serve in that moment is like a mirror, right? They trigger you, but they're not trying to trigger you to hurt you, but to help you see yourself, basically. So they are like a mirror. And now you try to blame them, right? Or get angry at them, fight them. But what's really happening is you're fighting your own self inside. You see? We call that inner conflict. So all these judgments that you have about situations and people are basically your separated aspect of yourself, meaning, or it indicates that's how you see yourself as well. You constantly judge yourself. You constantly measure yourself with the same standards. You see, and you constantly criticize yourself, right? Blame yourself, complain to yourself. So basically, the patterns are still there. You're just playing these out. And this other person may feel the same with you, but we don't know, because everyone is on a different journey, having different experiences, and they chose different things. So we all hold different karmas. And so to rebalance this karmic, we need to face our own self through these mirrors called triggers that reveal the shadow aspect within ourselves that need to be shed light on, meaning you need to pour your love in, because that shadow self lived in conditions believing that it's not good enough and there's not enough for everyone. So constantly living in lack, scarcity, and survival. And so this light will shed love that is unconditional, possibilities, options that is infinite. And so it is embracing the shadow aspect and realize that it was an illusion, meaning just a belief, because belief can change as you experience different things. And just was a belief that you held because you thought that conditions were real. And now you're learning that it is not real, and you're understanding what's really happening for real. So I hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye.